Hello, I'm Fred Israels, author of the Londoners Remember books, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. These books were developed over a period of years. The first book, Londoners Remember Part 1, was put together in 1988. I based the book on interviews with 80 older Londoners, and it was very popular. It sold over 6,000 copies, and the idea was at the time to preserve the memories of Londoners forever. And all these people in this book that were interviewed at that time have passed away. The oldest lady was 103. So they are gone, but their memories are not, and I'm very proud of the fact that I have preserved these in this book. And there's some great stories, and what I'm going to do with each of these books is tell you just a couple of stories that are interesting in each one, and give you an idea of what they're about. And if you're interested, you may wish to buy them, and I can tell you where that can happen and how it can happen. So I'll just do a brief look, first of all, at each book, and show you what it's all about. So this Part 1, as I said, was developed in 1988, and 83 Londoners gave me their stories. And the oldest lady, the 103-year-old lady, she gave me a fascinating story about her memory. She lived on Hamilton Road, and she remembered taking the horse-drawn carriage into downtown London. And she remembered there the fire wagons being pulled by gray horses and going at a very great speed down the street with the bells clanging. And this story came right out of the 19th century, late 19th century, which was just fascinating at the time. Stories in here, like I interviewed a lady who was who remembered her teacher, old Mrs. McGeach. And of course, these people, I'd ask them, well, what do you remember about them? And then she'd say, well, I remember a rhyme we used to say about her. And here it is. She said, old Mrs. McGeach, the red-headed teach, she goes to church on Sunday to praise the Lord, to give her strength to lick the kids on Monday. And she said that she was one of the perpetrators of this. Of course, the idea of licking the kids on Monday, you happen to have the old strap that maybe some of you watching this would remember if you're old enough. And of course, these were banned in the early 70s, I suppose. And a lot of stories that came from people about getting the strap. The stories here were put together in chapters that were, basic chapters, such as remembering school, remembering their childhood, remembering activities, how they kept healthy, some of the events that took place, and each one has a wonderful story. So this is a reprint of the first copy, and it's available in stores in London, and I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. Part 2. About 5 years later, I thought I should do another one, and I had such success with the first one that people recommended people that I could interview, and so I put together a book with interviews of another 80-some older Londoners. And the stories here are all different, but there's some great stories and some great memories here as well. We think about school, and we think about what the purpose of school was. And in those days, there's an article I found, and I did look in the old newspapers that I had, and as well as talking to people and getting their photos. But this one is kind of interesting because this was an article out of the Globe and Mail in 1938, and the school system was being blamed for lack of maids, and the trustees at that time were criticizing the school board for this whole thing. And one of the things that was said here, quote, quoting Dr. Hunt at the time, a trustee quoting Trustee Crothers, he said, "I can't believe that this board will sit by and do nothing when in a city of 10,000 people, and this is in, 70,000 people, this is in 1936, it is impossible to get domestic help. Our schools are turning out girls whose heads are being filled with Latin, French, geometry, and algebra for which they have no inclination and obtain no benefit. They should be taught domestic sciences, how to run homes, make budgets. It's hard to imagine in this day and age with women's rights and what have you. This was just what they thought in those days. So I found that article rather interesting at the time. When I interviewed people, I'd always ask them if they had photographs, and one lady told me that her parents owned a shoe repair store, and actually it was where the overpass on Richmond Street, or the underpass under the railway, is located today. When that wasn't there were stores on each side of the road. And one was called the First Class Shoe Repair, and I had a very kind of hard to see picture of that building, but more interesting for me was the fact that she said, oh, we had a shoe car that was our delivery vehicle, and the car was shaped like an automobile, so that must have been quite a sight to see in the city. And that was just kind of a neat little thing to see. And I learned a lot myself. I interviewed a lady who said that her brother was a Canadian hero, and I didn't really know what she was talking about. She said, yes, his name was Ted Anderson. He joined the Canadian Army in, just before World War I as it started. At the age of 14, he lied about his age, and he served over there for 4 years. He saw something called airplanes, which were new at the time, so when he came back, he decided that he wanted to be involved with that. He went to Michigan and joined the Air Force, and eventually became the Brigadier General of Selfridge Air Force Base in the United States, a planner of the D-Day invasion, and today is buried in Arlington Cemetery. And nobody in London knows about him, which is rather sad. I suppose if this was in the United States, there would be schools named after him and streets and so on. And yet in our country, we tend to not do as much of that as maybe we should. And I have mentioned that to some of the people in the history area at Western and so on. And so maybe someday there will be something done to recognize this important Londoner. So this is just a couple of things that you'd find in Londoners Remember Part 2. Now that was in '92, and I waited until just last year to pick up where I left off and do something else. And this book, Part 3, is basically based on memories, but also evolves around my own personal collection, my own London memorabilia. On the cover there are match covers that I had picked up in a collection, and it shows places that no longer are in London, like the Naughty Pine restaurant and the Three Little Pigs restaurant, and the old Ox Box, and so on. And so kind of neat to look at that. So in this book you're going to find all kinds of really interesting, as my first venture in color, you're going to find all kinds of interesting color samples of things that have been and no longer are. Like, here's a good example of the old O-Pee-Chee gum factory, and today it's an apartment, possibly condo complex. And what I really like is too that I have a collection of old postcards, and there you see the market in the old days, where the market is outside today. That was all horse and buggies, and their vendors were out there. The inside building faced King Street at that time, and the market outside was very bustling at the time. But there's a postcard collection that I have that I was able to capture some of the events of that time. Another thing I did, I like to look at the history along the Thames River, and so much happened along the Thames River at that time. And everything from the flood of 1937 to the Victoria disaster in 1881, and all kinds of mills along the river. And I look at all of these with photographs, and the ballpark, the Tecumseh Park. And so I have lots of flood pictures and lots of, one interesting thing that I found, and a lot of people don't realize this, but right down at the Thames, the forks of the Thames today, there's right behind the courthouse, actually you can see the courthouse in the background right there, there was the London mineral baths, and there was a sulfur water underground that was used to create a spa, and people were came from all over to think, they thought of this as a way of improving their health. And this was in operation for several years around the turn of the century, and I don't know what's happened to the mineral water itself below, but it was certainly popular in the early part of the 1900s. Of course, the Victoria Day disaster in 1881 saw the largest maritime disaster within the boundary of Canada, and there were 180 people lost their lives. And many of all the cemeteries in London have proof of that, and I've got examples of where you can find it, and maps of the cemeteries and where these burials took place. The memorabilia, like in the old days, of course, all the delivery vehicles. This was the milk. The milk was delivered to the homes. There's the milk bottle caps delivered by horse and buggy, and Silverwood's Dairy was one of the more important dairies at that time, and so I have lots of memorabilia related to that topic. So I share that with you folks. This book, it's fantastic. It's 100 pages packed with color photos and memories, and good way to learn about the city, even if you're an original Londoner or someone who's come in recent times. It's a great way to find out about your city. And this book, Londoners Remember Part 4, just came out a month ago from doing this video, and this takes a different a different approach. It's again 100 pages. It's a then and now. So I take 100 topics and I look at what it was like way back and what it is all about today. So, for example, I'm always fascinated by the corner of York and Rideout Street. And so in the old days, corner of York and Rideout Street, there was where Hanford Motors is today. That was a Super Test station, and then where the Renaissance 2 building was an Esso station. Where Cops Lumber was a Texaco station, and Super Test was where Hanford Motors is, and there was an Esso station where the Renaissance 2 was, and then the Thames Glass, or the Hobbs Glass company, was on the other side. Look at that then, and then I look at it now, and now you have Cops, and you have Renaissance 2, and you have Hanford Motors, and you have a little plaza. So for these 100 topics, that's what I do. I look at then and now. Maybe some of you don't realize there was an arena right on the Western Fairgrounds, torn down and replaced by a more modern day arena. You may also not know that there was an arena over on Bathurst at Rideout Street. It was quite large, and it was open until not that long ago, and it was bigger. I didn't realize it was this big. And in the end, it had hockey teams originally in the 20s, 30s, and then it had concerts. Some very well-known groups performed there. and now it's gone, but it's an office building there in that location. Also, Victoria Park was a military base, and its boundaries went all the way up to, from today's present Victoria Park, right up to Kenneth Ave at Waterloo Street. And today you can see actually the marker at Kenneth Ave that marked the northeast corner of the military base, and there's a plaque there today as well. And then we looked at today Victoria Park and what it represents today. So just so many topics to look at. We look at the Brick Street Cemetery way back, and then today all of the street names in London that are from the names of people buried there, like Southdale Road, the Dale family, and Norton Ave, the Norton family, Nixon Ave, the Nixon family, and so that's how this book works, and it's fantastic. And maybe the best part is the very last topic, then and now. There's then me when I'm 10 years old with an ice cream cone, and now me when I'm X number eating an ice cream cone. So I had fun with the book, and again, there's 100 pages here, full of colored photos, full of then and now. Great way to learn about your city, to look at some of the things that not a lot of people know about. So these books are available for purchase at 2 locations. I'm not selling them in all the stores. I'm just getting, and I haven't printed a lot of them, I'm just getting them out there so people can have a copy of them. The gift shop at the Museum London carries them all, and Attic Books carries the part 3 and 4. So if you want the first 2, you can get them also then at the gift shop. You can also get them from me. You can, I meet people, I live downtown, I meet people at the market to do a transaction like that, and you can get it a little cheaper from me. And you can text me at 519-670-6768. We can make arrangements for you if you want. And so you can buy them all, and I can give you a discount on that. You can buy them at the stores, one at a time, whatever you want. Great Christmas gift or birthday gift, or any kind of person that's older who would appreciate looking at the nostalgic look at London's past. So hope you like what you see here, and encourage you to take a look at them. They're wonderful, and enjoy London's history. Thank you very much. Good night.